page on Culture Clash, I wanted to have lots of different pictures of cultures, but also having bright, colourful pictures was important, as I love having colour in my artwork, so I wanted to find a culture that was really vibrant, so it would fit to my art style. Here are some of the different images there. On my second page, I just did a small amount of research on cultural masks, as that's the first thing that came to mind when I was introduced to it. I just researched Borica masks, which are a Costa Rican tradition, samurai masks, which are Japanese, and then traditional African masks. I just have a small amount of information on each. We then had to just research what culture is as its own thing, as by a definition, and we researched an ancient culture. I did the Mesopotamia. This is a region in Iraq. I found this culture really interesting, as the women had almost the same rights as men, despite it being from so long ago. I just continued the research onto this page. Ancient Mesopotamia is considered the birthplace of writing, and with it, recording history, which I thought was really interesting. Next, I just went on to research Costa Rican traditions and Costa Rica as a whole. The Nassau people span across North Panama and South Costa Rica. I'll be focusing on the Terabee people, which live in the region of Taraba, as they make the masks I'm interested in, as I've written here. I just have a page here about different traditions, like their festival, Fiesta de los Diablitos. Sorry if I'm butchering any of this pronunciation. This celebrates the victory in resisting colonization and keeping their autonomy. This celebration lasts several days and includes a multi-day symbolic reenactment of the fight between the tribes, men, and the Spanish. Next, I did a live study of my friend's mask that she brought from a tribe while in Costa Rica, which was really good to have as I got to see one up close and personal. I really thought it was interesting about how light the mask was, as it's made out of balsa wood, which is so light you can dent your finger into it. But it was also really interesting to see how vibrant the colours were and how I could see all the carving marks. The main flower you see... Let me see if I can have an example. Here are the orchids, as they are a traditional flower in Costa Rica. I did a small amount of research on two Costa Rican artists, but there was limited information on each, so I didn't get to write much about them. They both carve masks. One of them paints them as well, but one of them only carves them. But as you can see, they look really cool, and they're so detailed, which is what really inspired me the most. I then went on to just researching two artists that overall interested me, which was this artist called Howard. He carves detailed face masks relating to the COVID pandemic, and I think it's really cool how he made something so beautiful out of the bad. There, his mask there. He doesn't just carve masks, he also carves other animals and stuff, but mainly what he sells are these masks. And then the other artist I researched was an artist called Nick Cave, who makes sound suits. These are so vibrant and detailed, it's honestly amazing. They also have a really interesting meaning behind them relating to racial profiling and the beating of Rodney King in LA by police officers there. It was about how with these masks on, you can't see who people are, you can't hear who people are. But I just thought the colours and the detail in these was absolutely amazing, and it really inspired me. Next, I just wrote down some different ideas here on ways that I could make my mask. One way I could do it is carving a soft wood, which I'd have to experiment with to see if I would find it easy enough to do, as it was my first time carving anything. Another way, which ultimately was the way I did, which was using a clay to make a mould, and then going over it with the paper shape of a marshmallow. A third way that was really interesting was using a material like styrofoam and heating up a light, using heat light I did a small carving experiment which made me realize how completely terrible I am at carving, but also how painful carving is, especially even with a soft wood. It's still really hard to gain control. The one in the middle stick, that is actually I did a little I was left with using a clay mould and going over it with paper mache I settled on because it would be lighter and smoother. And I'd used Mod Rock in the past and it just really wasn't for me. I did some sketches of different masks until I'd settled on my final design. And then I've written about my creative process. So I had to first make a piece of curved board that I made with our technician. It's screwed in between two planks of wood to hold it at this curve. And then I just started going straight onto it with the clay. The only part of it I had covered was the part of the mouth because I wanted that to really dip in. And I didn't want the paper mache to stick to the wood, so I just put cling film over the hole there. Then once my the clay was done, I went straight in with paper mache and I used cellulose paste powder. It was my first time using that. It has a really interesting texture, but it was quite hard to gauge how much to use for my first time, and stupidly I didn't really ask for any help. I just kind of went for it, which is my mistake. But ultimately it turned out okay. I did have a problem with air bubbles a lot of the time, but instead I just kept going over with loads of layers of paper and hoping that it would smooth out. And it did in some places, but once there was enough layers, I just took it off the board and started basically hammering the clay out. Painted over them. I just used acrylic paint. However, some of the paints were really watery, so I mixed that with PVA glue to solve that problem. I originally was going to have the base as brown, as showed here, but I just think the blue made it more vibrant overall, and it just made it more interesting to look at. Here is just my original exhibition plan. I originally wanted it to be hanging from something but being positioned above a plinth so it would have the illusion of being sat on something. But after putting it up here, you can see I just thought it might overcrowd it a bit. And that is how I displayed the mask. I used it on 2 brackets and just using black thread because it would blend into the wall. I had to see which wall I wanted to put it against, and I know that the black horns don't stand out as much against a black wall, but the rest of the colours do, compared to on a white wall. I think it makes some of the colours quite dull. But yeah, overall, that is the whole process I did.